Welcome to Celestial Insights, a weekly podcast that brings the stars down to earth. I'm your host, astrologer, coach, and intuitive Celeste Brooks. My purpose is to provide practical, unique, and insightful guidance to help you navigate the energies of the week like a boss. Hello, this is Celeste of Astrology by Celeste, and on this episode, I will discuss the astrology for the week of March 8th, 2026. I'm honored to be part of the astrology panel on April 18th at the new Living Expo this year. This gathering is about conscious living, deeper truth, holistic wellness, and coming together and communicate as we navigate this powerful moment in history. It's happening April 17th through 19th in San Rafael, California. So check it out at newlivingexpo.com. If you join and come to my panel talk, please introduce yourself. I'd love to meet you in person. The theme of this week is of gods and monsters. And there are three big things I'd like you to think about as you navigate this week. The first is that Jupiter will station direct on Tuesday at 15 degrees of Cancer. And whenever a planet stations, its energy is intensified and highly visible. Now, stationing direct, if things have been stalled, they have the potential to get better. Jupiter rules abundance, benefactors, judges, doctors, professors, clergy, and the wealthy. It is a benefic, meaning it is life-giving. It provides abundance as well as it educates. The planet rules truth, belief systems, and the big stories unfolding for the collective. Saturn and Jupiter are the social planets. And what is happening with them speaks to what we're all going through. Now, if you have any planets or angles around 15 degrees of Cancer, you may really feel this shift. Jupiter in Cancer can bring a sense of support, nourishment, protection, emotional generosity to you. You may just see people hugging on this day where they're just holding each other really long. Because this could be someone gets home after being stuck far away. I'm really feeling this energy myself as a Cancer rising over the past several weeks. I've received so many kind messages and emails and comments from people telling me how their work is helping them through this time. And I just want to say thank you. I really appreciate it. That's very Jupiter and Cancer energy, people expressing gratitude. Now, Cancer rules the home, homeland, family, and security. So Jupiter stationing here can also bring stories connected to homeland protection and national security. Right now, we're seeing this play out through the war in Iran. There's already been talk about possible sleeper cells or cyber responses. I am just so enraged by this war. There's so much suffering, death, and destruction. But here we are. So know your exits when you're in public places. Keep your devices charged. Be mindful of your environment. If your spidey senses or your neck starts tingling, telling you maybe I shouldn't be here, maybe you should listen to yourself. If your stomach is calm and telling you this stuff. Now, if it's like going crazy, that might not be intuition. That might just be fear. But one thing you can do is, as a daily practice, when you get up, do some kind of energy clearing where you put a bubble around yourself. Maybe wash the inside of it, pop it, and send it off in gold light. So separating your energy from other people's, because there is collective hysteria and emotionally sensitive people. If you've got a lot of water in your chart, you may absorb it. So also taking Epsom salt baths is a great way to clear your energy. So if you can do more to clear your energy, that can be really helpful. Now, Cancer's a beautiful sign, but one of its shadows is being really nativistic and insular. You're either part of my tribe or I totally reject you kind of energy. So be aware that these types of emotions are going to be coming up with people. And especially if you're traveling in foreign countries, especially if you're an American or an Israeli, you may be getting some real pushback from other people for this current catastrophe. A huge global story is the closure of the Strait of Hormuz due to this war. More than 20% of the world's oil supply moves through this narrow waterway that Iran has control over. And astrologically, this lines up with the Saturn-Neptune conjunction at 0 Aries. Saturn rules restrictions, blockages, shortages, it limits. Neptune, oil, liquids, the ocean. Aries, conflict and war. 0 degrees is one of the world points, the first degree of the zodiac. And this war is affecting the entire globe. Astrology is literal, as I love to say. This also connects to the Virgo lunar eclipse. Virgo rules supply chains, logistics, and the systems that keep our world functioning. And eclipses break things. And the waterway was shut down right before the lunar eclipse. So that's one of the biggest stories. And Mercury retrograde is in Pisces. And this is also very literal. Mercury rules trade routes, shipping lanes, commerce. And Pisces is a water sign. Now, Mercury goes direct on March 20th. So it'll be interesting to see if that's when the channel opens up, or it's possible that it will be opening up around in conjunction with Jupiter stationing direct. We shall see. But stations are also, we can see conflicts and disagreements. Another thing to keep in mind is that Mercury and Jupiter are making 3 trines in water signs due to Mercury's retrograde. And water signs amplify emotion, belief, and narrative. So we're seeing very emotional messaging, powerful storytelling, and a lot of propaganda. Another thing related to Saturn, Neptune, and Aries is that it came out, this is a Mercury retrograde story, that the military top brass is telling soldiers that Jesus has anointed Trump in order to bring on Armageddon by going to war in Iran and framing this as something that they are being called by God to do. So this is very concerning, and a lot of these soldiers have been reporting this out. And it's totally unacceptable. Now, this Jupiter station is personally significant for the president. And when the president was born, Jupiter was stationing. So whenever it changes direction, it often corresponds with major developments in his public life or story. Now, it can bring success and expansion, but it also can bring arrogance or overconfidence, especially when someone believes they are untouchable. Last November, when Jupiter stationed retrograde, he gave an interview with Laura Ingraham where he admitted the United States doesn't have enough workers for certain high-tech jobs that take a lot of skills, and that's why we need to bring in people from other countries. This caused a lot of backlash with parts of his base and for people being awakened about who he really is. Now that it's turning direct, we may see another development in his story. One of the things that's going to be happening, it may already be decided before this date, but it's related to Jupiter stationing direct in a square to his Chiron and Jupiter in Libra. He got wounded and his wealth got wounded by a legal case. The Supreme Court is looking at the verdict in the E. Jean Carroll case. And this is while Venus, which rules his midheaven in his public point in his chart, it's in a sign of Aries, a sign associated with conflict. And this is happening while Venus is in Aries, the planet that rules relationships, in a sign associated with conflict. So maybe on this date, he'll get a response. And if so, I don't think it's going to be very good. We'll see how that unfolds. Now, Jeffrey Epstein's Uranus is at 15 degrees of Cancer, conjunct his descendant, which rules best friend types, business partners, spouses. And so Jupiter is stationing there. And so we may be finding out some things about the truth coming to light related to these files, related to the story. There could be some big news right around this day. On a personal level, Jupiter stationing is an invitation to lean into generosity and gratitude. I think one of the most powerful ways to work with this transit is just simply through kindness. We're all under a lot of stress with the current conflict in the Middle East. Can you be a light? Smile at someone. Have a friendly conversation. Let someone know you appreciate them. Small acts of generosity can make someone's day brighter. This Aries season has so much fire, and if you're ready to turn it into real momentum, join the Cosmic Fire Up Challenge. It's 5 weeks of astrology with me and movement with Charla Goodnight. It's simple, energizing, and the investment is just $30. Check the link in the show notes. We start April 9th. The next thing I want to make you aware of is that we have a last quarter moon at 20 degrees of Sagittarius. Sagittarius is mutable fire and it's ruled by Jupiter, which we just talked about, is stationing. Jupiter stations before the last quarter moon, but it's barely moving in the sky. So it's amplified, but moving slow. It's almost like it's suspended in time. Sagittarius is associated with long distance travel and international connections. As I'm recording this on March 4th, there are people currently trapped in parts of the Middle East because of the war, unable to leave. Now we have the sun and Pisces squaring the moon, which creates tension. Pisces rules oil, oceans, and fuel. And at this last quarter moon, Jupiter is conjunct the part of bondage. So hopefully some people who are stuck maybe will soon get some forward momentum. Also, I've been seeing news already that countries around the world are telling people that they are limited with the amount of oil and gas that they have. Thailand, I read, notified people they had 2 months supplies, so people were running to the gas stations. This also connects to something I mentioned. I posted on Instagram as well as in my newsletter. You can go to my blog on my website. It's under the free resources, where I recommended a few movies to watch for eclipse season. And one of them was Force Majeure, which refers to an act of God or an act of war that disrupts normal life. So situations where events outside of human control or geopolitical conflict can suddenly change the conditions people are operating under, including travel and movement. Like travel costs could suddenly show up, adding a fuel surcharge because of what is happening. And just be aware, if you're planning travel this summer or anytime the rest of the year, always have travel insurance. This war could interrupt travel plans. On a personal level, this last quarter moon is actually a great time for reflection and adjustment. Both Pisces and Sagittarius are connected to belief systems, philosophy, and meaning. And with Mercury retrograde, it's a powerful time to go within and think about, what do I believe now? What stories am I telling myself about the world? Have things happened that have changed perspective? Also be mindful that there can be some foot and mouth movements with the moon in Sagittarius. So before firing something off on social media, at your partner, at your children, at your pet, pause and take a breath. One way to work with this energy is just like shake things up a little bit in terms of taking a different route home, trying something new, breaking your routine. Sagittarius is a sign that likes movement and exploration, even in small ways, like taking a different road to the grocery store or home or to work can be things you do to mix things up a little bit. Get out in nature as well is a great way to use this energy. Regarding the moon phase family, these 27-month cycles where the moon has different phases at approximately the same point where there could be a story in your life if your chart is activated. The new moon that seeded this lunar phase family was on December 12, 2023, where the sun and moon both met at 20 degrees of Sagittarius. 9 months later, there was a first quarter moon where the sun had advanced to Virgo, but the moon was still in Sagittarius, both at 19 degrees on September 10th, 2024. So maybe you had a big Sagittarian idea in December. By September, you learned you had to make adjustments because some of the details became clear. At the full moon, all is illuminated. That was when the sun was in Gemini, the moon in Sagittarius, both at 20 degrees, June 11th, 2025. And now we have the last quarter moon, sun in Pisces, moon in Sagittarius, both at 20 degrees again on March 11th, 2026. So if at the full moon, there was some information became available with the sun in Gemini that really gave perspective to your plan. Now there may be some lessons you've learned if there's a story that you can relate this to. The last thing I want to make you aware of is that Ceres will enter Taurus from March 14th through May 28th. Ceres is the asteroid associated with the harvest, grain, nourishment, motherhood, and nurturing. It typically spends around 2 to 3 months in each sign and takes about 4.5 years to travel around the zodiac. It's connected to people who work with food and the earth, like farmers, agricultural workers, herbalists, botanists, nutritionists, chefs, and people in the food industry. Its glyph actually looks like a sickle that's a tool used to harvest grain. The cornucopia, the horn of plenty, is also associated with Ceres. And the myth corresponds to Demeter in Greek mythology, who was the mother of Persephone. And Persephone was abducted by Pluto and taken to the underworld, and Demeter became so grief-stricken that she stopped nurturing the earth. Crops failed, the land became barren, and humanity began to suffer. Eventually, Hermes negotiated a deal with Pluto so that Persephone could return to her mother for part of the year. And this myth is used to explain the cycle of the seasons. And when Persephone returns, the earth blooms again. But when she descends back into the underworld, the land goes dormant. So Ceres is very connected to food supply, agriculture, and the fertility of the earth. And when she moves into Taurus, these themes will become more tangible. Notice what you are reading and seeing, because Taurus rules land, farming, resources, and the literal food on our table. And as Ceres moves into the sign, she starts to square Pluto in Aquarius. This creates tension between food production and large systems or large groups of people. So we may be hearing more about farmland being damaged or targeted in war, disruptions to agricultural labor, food shortages or supply problems, or escalating food prices. And for people in the United States, we're already seeing this. There's chaos in the agricultural workforce due to immigrant farm workers being detained, leaving the country, or being too afraid to go to work. So there could be stories coming up about who's going to harvest crops this year. At the same time, oil prices being higher is going to impact the cost of everything: transportation, fertilizer, farming equipment, packaging, everything. And we already have people who are struggling to afford groceries. So this could correspond to the Ceres Pluto square that's coming, could correspond to intense conversations about food systems or access to basic nourishment. Maybe there'll be some kind of announcement from the Health and Human Services Secretary about something about the food supply. The theme of the podcast is of gods and monsters. And the title comes from a movie called Gods and Monsters that starred Ian McKellen and Brendan Fraser, an amazing film. McKellen plays the aging director James Whale, who directed the classic horror film Frankenstein. And he becomes fascinated with a straight, young, working-class man played by a gorgeous Brendan Fraser. And the story explores this uncomfortable dynamic where someone with wealth, power, and influence tries to draw someone who has a lack of resources into their orbit. In mythology, the gods ruled the world. They controlled the sky, the oceans, harvests, war, and fate. But they did not always behave in noble ways. They could be generous and life-giving, but they also could be cruel, manipulative, and destructive. In astrology, Jupiter is the planet that rules gods and belief systems, law, religion, kings, judges, powerful figures who shape society. But when power becomes inflated, those same gods can behave like monsters. And Jupiter's exalted in Cancer, lifted up, a special seat at the table, but it can also bring themes of arrogance. And we can see this playing out in modern life all the time. And this Jeffrey Epstein story where these powerful elite people use wealth and influence to entrap and manipulate and cause harm to others. But I think this Frankenstein theme may also come in terms of what kind of experiments were being done with these people. Jeffrey Epstein had a big interest in eugenics. There may be something coming out about that this week. Now, Jupiter stationing direct is also about movement returning and big truths emerging. And the Sagittarius Moon relates to the long-distance travel and global movement. And Ceres entering Taurus brings themes of food, land, and harvest to our attention. These are the systems that keep civilization functioning. How we move around, how we transport energy and resources, how we feed ourselves. Transportation networks, oil supply networks, all of these things are all tied in. When those systems run smoothly, life feels stable. Like Virgo, we don't even think about it until it becomes a problem, when it's disrupted. And then the impact spreads. So the astrology shows us that the actions of powerful figures, the gods of our time, ripple throughout these systems and ultimately impact people every day when we have flights stopping, energy prices spiking, and food becoming more expensive. If you're an astrologer ready to deepen your skills and grow your practice, I'm mentoring a small group through the mentorship program with the Organization of Professional Astrology. We'll meet monthly for 6 months to explore astrology practices, consultation skills, and building a sustainable business. If you'd like guidance, community, and support from someone who's walked the path, learn more at the link in the show notes. On Sunday, the word of the day is pinch. Venus conjunct Saturn today at 2 degrees of Aries. Venus rules resources, relationships. Saturn constricts things. So you may be feeling a pinch monetarily or emotionally, in terms of like maybe you're separated from your partner for some reason, or you're just feeling a little lonely, or you've had enough and you tell someone, we're done, I'm not seeing you anymore, kind of thing. Because Mercury is retrograde in Pisces, trying Jupiter retrograde in Cancer. They're both at 15 degrees. So emotionally, this is a time where you may make some connection internally, where you've just had it with someone. And also be aware that the time is changing in the United States on this day. So this retrograde energy, people may be screwing up meetings all week long. On Monday, the word of the day is casualties. The Scorpio Moon is opposite Uranus in Taurus, both at 27 degrees. On the axis of power, pleasure, and resources, the moon is in the sign of its fall in Scorpio. We may be getting news about more about the American soldiers or people in embassies that have died because of this war. Americans were informed about 6 soldiers. Maybe the administration will have to divulge the real numbers. The moon moves into Sagittarius at 8:36 a.m. Pacific time. There can be themes coming up about philosophy, spirituality. Maybe you decide you want to take a class or study something that expands your horizons. It's a really good time to spend time outdoors or engage in adventurous activities. The moon will square Mars in Pisces at 5 degrees. The United States is a Sagittarius rising. This is literally war losses at 5 degrees of each of the signs. And Venus in Aries is sextile Pluto in Aquarius at 4 degrees. On Tuesday, the word of the day is patriot. The Pisces sun is sesqui-square Pluto. And Pluto can also try to manipulate. So the president maybe this is a day where he's meeting the caskets and trying to put on a show like he cares. The Sagittarius moon will square the node. So that's a choice point. And the more and more people are talking about the choice point with the north nodes in Pisces, the south node is in Virgo. And it's like, are you America first or are you Israel first? And this conversation is going to continue to get louder because nobody's buying the propaganda except a few people about that we needed to attack Iran. People are apoplectic. Over 75% of the American people don't support it, last I saw. And the moon is going to square Mercury retrograde at 13 degrees of Pisces. So there can be secrets revealed to the people of the country. And I think it may have to do as well with the Epstein stuff because Vesta, an asteroid that has associations, young women, the Vestal Virgins, enters the sign of Pisces until May 13th. Another sign of secrets being revealed. And then Jupiter stations direct at 15 degrees of Cancer. So this could be a time where there's a lot of emphasis. Maybe some soldiers are getting medals for their bravery and valor to try to boost up patriotism that can be going on. On Wednesday, the word of the day is lounge. The last quarter moon at 20 Sagittarius is at 2:38 p.m. Pacific time. Last quarter moons are the crisis of consciousness. This is the psychological integration of what came before. The new moon of this cycle was a solar eclipse in Aquarius, conjunct the USA moon, square Uranus. So there has been incredible amounts of upheaval to the American public because of this war. The moon enters Capricorn at 9:06 p.m. Pacific time. This is the sign of the moon's exile. People can be feeling emotionally a sense of a little bit of depressive energy with their government or big businesses. On Thursday, the word of the day is austerity. The Capricorn moon will square Neptune at 1 degree of Aries and then Saturn at 3 degrees of Aries. So this can be like corporate loss and limitations. There's big stories about how AI is taking over white collar jobs. Jack Dorsey, who was the founder of Twitter, his new company, he laid off almost half of the company by tweet and blamed AI. The Capricorn Moon squares Venus and Aries, both at 7 degrees. So when the moon squares Venus and they're both in signs of their detriment, ooh, this is a really good time maybe to sit down with your spouse or your financial advisor and like look at your budget. Could be something that people are doing at this time. Thinking about how can I make some changes in order to make sure I'm secure through this time of adjustment. Collectively, this is Pluto and Aquarius. Big seismic changes coming to us because of technology and Aquarius theme. On Friday, the word of the day is battle. The Capricorn Moon is opposite Jupiter and Cancer, both at 15 degrees. So you may get an emotional feeling that what you're being told from your leader is not quite exactly accurate. Venus in Aries is quincunx the South Node in Virgo, both at 8 degrees. And Mars in Pisces is conjunct the North Node at 8 degrees. So both Venus and Mars, the planets of war and peace, are talking to the nodes. This can be a time where there are difficult negotiations, where people are trying to come to agreement, but the conflict is amplified and the ability to come to an agreement is kind of going down the drain. The moon will also square Chiron at 24 degrees of Aries. So this is a day where there's some easy access to conflict. On Saturday, the word of the day is shares. The Aquarius moon is at 8:13 a.m. Pacific time. When there is an Aquarius moon, it's a great time to collaborate with a group, join a cause, brainstorm about innovative ideas. Maybe share what you know, share what you have, plan to or attend a social or a humanitarian event. The Aquarius moon meets Pluto, so something can be coming to our conscious attention about a group of people. And I wonder if we're going to find out about Congress people and how they are benefiting from this war. The shares may be company shares. Ceres then enters Taurus until May 28th. So notice any stories about resources. And there's conflict in the air. It's not till Sunday, but Mercury retrograde and Mars are heading for a conjunction. There can be revelations that are about people doing deceptive things. So just pay attention to what you're seeing and how it aligns up with the astrology. We are in a hard time. It's hard emotionally to be seeing people around the world suffering. I have been rooting for the women of Iran. So hopefully this war will lead to them being in a better situation, not a worse situation. The Ayatollah was taken out, but his people are still in power. Mercury is retrograde. Apparently the successors the Trump administration had selected were killed in the conflict. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully this conflict will lead to better things on the other side. So take good care of yourself emotionally. That's it for this week's episode. Feel free to email me at celeste@astrologybyceleste.com with any astrology in action stories. Take care, and I'll catch you next week. Thank you for listening to Celestial Insights. To learn more about my work, please visit my website, astrologybyceleste.com, where I offer personal readings, horary consultations, cosmic coaching, group events, and classes to help guide people to higher levels of fulfillment. You can also find me on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook at Astrology by Celeste. If you enjoyed Celestial Insights, Please help others find the show. Follow, rate it 5 stars, or write a nice review. I would so appreciate it. I'm astrologer, coach, and intuitive Celeste Brooks, and I'll be back next week.